Good day everyone, so for today's video is all about Chapter 8, Designing and Evaluating Portfolio Assessment in the Classroom. Portfolio development requires learners to collect and integrate examples of their work and allows teachers to assess the learners as well. This assessment tool provides opportunity for both learners and teachers to better understand the educational process in a wider perspective. This chapter describes the processes of planning and implementing portfolio assessment in the classroom. The steps are aligned with the teaching and learning assessment to the curriculum and teaching and learning activities as well. At the end of the chapter, you should be able to develop and evaluate portfolio assessment utilized in the classroom. Step for developing portfolio assessment. Designing a portfolio assessment requires some advanced and careful planning. It begins with a clear idea about the purpose of the assessment. The following steps provide the general direction for developing portfolio assessment. Identify overall purpose and focus. The design and use of portfolio begins with a clear description of your purpose and focus. The questions, why do you want a portfolio? And what learning target and curriculum goals will it serves? Sharpen the focus of identifying the purpose and focus of portfolio with this. You can clearly identify why you want your student to create a portfolio. Below are the list of questions on how to prepare and use portfolio. Preparing to the use of portfolio. Number 1. Who will construct the portfolio? So dito, ang portfolio is ginagamit siya mostly sa mga estudyante. It serves as the guide, the direction para mas ma-assess natin ng mabuti yung ating mga estudyante. Portfolio assessment kasi is a term with many meanings and it is a process that serves a variety of purposes. Portfolio is a collection of student work that can exhibit student efforts, progress, and achievements in various areas of the curriculum. A portfolio assessment can be examination of students' selected samples of work experiences and documents related to the outcomes being assessed, and it can address and support progress toward achieving academic goals, including student efficacy. So yun, mostly sa pag-construct ng portfolio is sa mga estudyante, sa mga learners nakasentro ito. Number 2 question. What type of portfolio do you want to use? So, anong klaseng portfolio mang ating gagamitin? So, while portfolio have a broad potential and can be used for the assessment of student performance for a variety of purposes in course curriculum areas, the content and criteria used to assess portfolio must be aligned to serve those purposes. For example, showcasing portfolios exhibit the best of student performance, while working portfolio may contain drafts that student and teacher use to reflect on progress. Progress portfolios contains the multiple example of the same type of work done over time and are used to assess progress. If cognitive processes are intended for assessment, contents and rubrics must be designed to capture the processes. So, the type of portfolio na ating gagamitin is nakadepende sa teacher kung ano yung mas effective na para sa mga learners natin, in which ang mga estudyante kasi iba-iba yung mga capabilities nila, iba-iba yung kanilang pinapakitang mga behavior, yung kanilang mga performance, yung capabilities nila. So, maaring gagamit tayong effective way na either mag-isip tayo ng mga maraming methods na which mag-work sa kanila. Kasi nga, ang portfolio assessment can be provide either maaring magamit tayo ng formative or summative, as this is the opportunity to monitoring the progress toward reaching identified outcomes. So by setting criteria for content and outcomes, portfolios can communicate concrete information about what is expected of students in terms of content and quality performance is specifically curriculum areas or specific curriculum areas, while also providing a way of assessing their progress along the way. So depending on the content and criteria, portfolios can provide teachers and researchers with information relevant to the cognitive processes that students use to achieve academic outcomes. So in short, sa madaling salita, anong klaseng portfolio ang gagamitin natin is nakadepende kung ano yung effective, kung ano yung ano yung nakakaganda doon sa mga estudyante natin. So, number 3, what are the purposes and objectives? So, itong mga purposes and objectives, ito yung pinaka basic foundation din ng pagkakaroon natin ng magandang assessment at magandang learning yung tinatawag, kasi nga kung walang purpose and walang objective sa pagbibigay natin ng assessment, hindi natin may-reach yung goals natin, in which hindi natin totally makukuha kung ano yung ating gustong nais marating, na kung ano yung outcome o ano yung gusto nating mangyari at the end of giving topics or lessons sa mga estudyante natin. So itong purposes and objective is nakadikit na talaga ito siya sa ating pagbibigay ng mga assessments. Number 4, what categories of pre-examples should go into portfolio? So ano-ano ba itong mga kategorya na maaari nating magamit sa portfolio? So sa portfolio kasi is nakapokus ito siya sa pag-integrate natin. Ito yung pamamaraan na integrate natin yung assessment and mga instructions natin na ma-promote natin yung meaningful classroom learning. So, naniniwala tayo na magiging effective yung learning na tinatawag if successful din yung assessment na gagawin natin by means of portfolio. So, ito is ongoing involvement of students kasi in the creation of assessment process. Ang portfolio kasi is design na mag-provide sa mga estudyante natin ng opportunity to become more reflective about their own works while demonstrating their abilities to learn and achieve in academics. So yun. And number 5, what criteria will students or group use to select the entries? So ano bang klase mga criteria, ano bang klase mga selections, options na ating gagamitin in order to have the effective learning by means of portfolio? So, as a educator, meron kasi tayong mga guidelines, meron tayong mga criteria, rubrics na sinusunod. So, kung ano yung standard criteria, rubrics, or guidelines na maaring maka-help sa mga estudyante natin to build and to grow themselves, is yun yung magiging applicable sa kanila para mas lalawak or mas i-expand yung kanilang knowledge. So yun. Number 6, who will develop the rubrics to assess and evaluate the portfolios? So dito kasi sa paggawa kasi ng portfolio, maaring teacher and student, but most kasi ang mga estudyante kasi itong pinapagawa ng portfolio, kasi ito yung higing guide natin as educator na ma-assess natin talaga yung mga estudyante natin sa pag kung ano yung kanilang performance sa base sa binigay natin ng mga assessments, formative man yan or summative. So dito as educator, you have to be critical sa gagawin natin, na for example sa pag-develop ng mga rubrics, guidelines, and most especially kung ano yung format na angkop doon sa mga estudyante natin na makagawa sila ng portfolio, at yun yung giging way para mas magiging effective yung pag-evaluate natin sa kanila. Portfolio may be used to assess understanding, but the ideal for assessing product, skills, and reasoning targets. This is especially true for multi-dimensional skills such as writing, reading, and problem solving that are continually improved and demonstrated through products. With extensive self-reflection, critical thinking is an important target. Students also develop metacognition and decision-making skills. As with other performance assessments, portfolios generally not very efficient for assessing knowledge target. So yun, tama nga naman, sabi ni Macmillan 2007. Ang portfolio kasi ito lang yung another way natin upang ma-assess natin ang ating mga learners sa kanilang learning process. Hindi lang ito nagiging foundation ng ating pag-assess, pag-evaluate sa kanilang performance sa pagbibigay natin ng grades, kundi ito lang yung nagiging dagdag doon sa ating pag-i-evaluate, na hindi lang doon nakadepend sa isang assessment na gagawin natin, kundi ito ay nagiging pamamaraan din para ma-measure natin kung ano nga ba ang pwede pa nating ma-develop sa kanila. So yun, tandaan natin na are not very efficient for assessing knowledge target. Kasi nga marami talaga tayong mga methods na sinusunod, mga approaches, mga techniques and strategies. So hindi lamang itong portfolio ang nagiging basehan natin sa assess, although ito ay nakakatulong din, but yun na nga, ang point lang dito is marami pa mga ways to expand the assessment tool o yung ating gagamitin sa pag-assess sa mga estudyante. But ito generally is helpful din itong portfolio. It is important to distinguish between learning targets for individual works, samples, and content of portfolio as a whole. The target that reflects all content tends to be broader and more general, such as development as a reader, adapt writing, the audience, speak clearly, and adapt writing styles to different purposes. So, as educator, dapat alam din natin kung paano natin i-divide or paano natin malaman between learning targets sa ating mga learners. Like for example, sa kanilang mga different capabilities, kung paano natin ma-evaluate, paano natin ma-assess yung kanilang mga skills nila, like sa writing, sa mga aspect na kanilang strength or yung weakness nila. Kung sa strength naman is good na ma-assess agad natin, at yun, madagdag natin yung ating pagtuturo sa kanila na mas lalawak pa kanilang kaalaman. Sa weaknesses naman is tutulong tayo upang balakasin or i-boost yung kanilang confidence and to have the courage na mas gagalingan pa nila sa susunod na mga assessment na ibibigay natin sa kanila. So yun, very important yung ating ginagampanan dahil nga tayo ay nagiging way nila to achieve their goals, na mapalawak yung kanilang kaalaman. The present K-12 curriculum provides learning targets which need to be achieved in the form of content and assess performance standards. Thus, the nature of using portfolio assessment is based from the importance and focus on the learning targets. It necessitates that portfolio matches with the learning standard and goals. So, sa old curriculum kasi, although yung teacher is hindi siya facilitator, kundi yung bigay ng lesson. But kasi ngayon sa K-12 curriculum, sa new curriculum, is nabago na ang lahat, which is the teacher is now the facilitator, and And the students or the learners is the active agent ng learning process, in which tayo lang is mag-o-observe, magpa-facilitate, nagiging guide nila sa kanilang learning process. So itong portfolio kasi, itong portfolio assessment is important sa curriculum natin ngayon para mas ma-broad yung ating perspective in terms sa pagbibigay ng ating mga evaluation and assessment sa kanila. Kasi nga ito yung nagiging guide natin as a educator, na mas ma-assess talaga natin ang husto yung ating mga estudyante, na hindi lang tayo naka-defend doon sa kung ano yung binigay natin na assessment, kundi ito yung nagiging way natin para mas maalam natin kung ano yung kakulangan or ano yung ma-showcase nila or ano yung magiging resulta ng pagbibigay natin ng mga target lessons, in which ano yung feedback nila, may natutunan ba sila o wala. So yun, very important yung role na ginagampanan natin as an educator. And also yung portfolio as the learning standard natin. Ay hindi rin learning standard, kundi nagiging learning guide natin. So yun. Below is an example of assessing reading skills performance, which shows an aligned of teaching and learning goals, activities, and assessment tasks, which include portfolio evidence. Reading skills performance. So as you can see here in the table, we have goals, sample classroom activity, portfolio evidence, and assessment tool. So dito sa goals, we have decode basic reading skills for beginning or weak readers. So ang sample classroom activity na maaring gagawin natin as educator is start muna tayo dun sa basic, which is read simple text. Sa portfolio evidence naman, maaring magkaroon tayo ng list of words na maaari nilang ma-master and selected text na pwede nilang mabasa or pwede nilang mabasa at ma-master. So sa assessment tool naman, ang maaring gawin natin is to have individual progress report, yung self and peer assessment checklist, rating skills. Sa understanding simple text naman, yung narratives and expository type, ang sample classroom activity na maaring gawin natin is maaring magkaroon tayo ng or first identify the main points and the details of the news. So maaring yung estudyante is magbabasa ng familiar story or practicing the scanning ads or TV guide. So ang mga estudyante kasi is iba-iba yung kanilang kakayahan. Maaring ang iba is madali lang maka-get sa isang bagay in 1 minute or 5 minutes, but yung iba naman is slow learners, at yung iba naman is through visual is meron agad silang idea kung ano yung gagawin nila. So ang ano natin dito is we have to have the sample classroom activity na helpful sa kanila. Sa portfolio evidence naman, ang maaari natin gawin is cassette of story reads and reading strategies checklist, completed reading tasks, corrected test items. Sa assessment tool na ang gagawin natin is self or peer assessment checklist, rating scale, or answer key. So yun yung mga ano natin. Sa pangatlong line naman, we have yung goals na i-appreciate natin yung literatures like stories, poems, read in class. Example, understanding the character and themes. So So, ang sample classroom activity na maaring gawin natin is semi-extensive reading activities, both guided and independent reading. So, maaring gagawin natin is as a teacher, guide natin yung kung pababasahin natin yung mga learners natin at or also independent na sila na mismo. Sa portfolio evidence naman is reading logs, reading journals, book tasks, cassette, video clips, and artwork. Sa self-assessment or assessment tools naman, ganun din yung self and peer checklist or self-peer assessment checklist. So next we have reading for pleasure or extensive reading. Ang sample classroom activity na maaaring gawin natin is sustain silent reading in class as well as at home. Portfolio evidence naman is a log of books, booklets, reading cards, news articles, read, creative tasks, and comment cards. Assessment tools naman, we have teacher's record of students reading, rating scale relating to content, and presentation of language. And lastly, we have yung goals na use simple information tools, resource materials. Ang sample activity na maaring gawin natin sa classroom is work with glossary, table of contents, dictionary, search engines, encyclopedias. Sa portfolio evidence naman is dictionary exercises, alphabetizing or matching definition to words, synonyms, and antonyms. Result of search as part of project or comment cards. Sa assessment tool, we have answer key or the appropriate information found, partially found, not, or not found. So, next. So that's all for my presentation.